Welcome to the Winning Edge Investments Podcast. Winning Edge Investments provides industry-leading horse racing and sports betting tips, ratings and education, enabling you to invest intelligently and treat your betting like a business. Go to www.winningedgeinvestments.com to learn more about how you can start to supercharge your betting bank immediately. Treat your betting like a business and invest intelligently with Winning Edge Investments.
Welcome everyone to this Winning Edge Investments feature presentation. First one I've done of these in about 5 or 6 years. Thought a good opportunity, all the changes that have been happening in the wagering and betting industry to do one of these as a bit of an update. And thanks to the team at Smart Odds, who are an odds comparison website and platform, have helped me with the recording and using their recording studio. So appreciate their assistance. Just a bit on who I am for those who haven't heard of me before. I've been interviewed by the likes of Andrew Bensley and Gareth Hall on RSN and SEN radio quite regularly for my sort of approaches to form assessment and covering both previews and reviews of major races and trials. Been featured in quite a few podcasts and feature presentations as an authority in the racing and betting world. I started a service called Trial Spy in 2013, still Australia's most profitable bet and forget horse racing tip service in history. We identify horses with average ability purely from barrier trials and jump outs, the above average ability, and have a sort of revolutionary approach to form assessment around an area that punters either ignore or undervalue. That service has made close to 930 units profit since inception and has been a very successful and consistent service. I was featured in Punter of the Week on Punters. This was some of the comments. Rare that you get good comments on social media, but some of the comments here, brilliant insights from one of the most educated punters of racing Twitter, best punter of the week by far, outstanding read, best piece yet. I was also interviewed twice on the Business of Betting podcast, which is probably the largest business betting podcast in the world. Interview people in the wagering and betting industry globally. I think might have been the first person to be interviewed twice on there as a follow-up to my first episode on betting like an investor, the evolution of betting and bookmaking. And you can find both of those on YouTube. I've been interviewed by Andrew Bensley and Gareth Hall regularly. Done RSN radio betting education, things that can be found on SoundCloud and various Q&As. So a bit of a sort of who, what, where, how, why, when about myself and Winning Edge Investments. So now I use detailed and intensive analysis of several advanced horse racing databases and data sources, and use a unique approach to form analysis to identify selections that the bookmakers and or the market have significantly mispriced for a strictly limited number of members to take advantage. The selectors are refined through hours of professional video review of trials and races across Australia, understanding of historical trends and statistics, analysis of accurate sectionals and speed ratings that aren't available in the public realm, and converting that to an accurate rated price for runners and using advanced money management staking strategies to generate long-term profit. My aim and the aim of Winning Edge Investments is ultimately to educate members on how to bet successfully and profitably by teaching members how professionals approach their punting and how they operate and think and win by taking a long-term perspective and having a clear mathematical advantage and treating your betting just like a business. The goal is really to run the most honest, open and transparent tips and rating service in the world that helps people to bet profitably and treat their betting like a business. And that's something that we've been striving to do for the last 12 years and have demonstrated in many ways. In my starting, I've always been involved in the racing industry. My father bred a lot of good horses, and that's sort of where I got the bug. But like most people, I used to love betting when I was younger, but I wasn't winning. But I knew it was a passion and something I'd always want to do was bet and follow horse racing. And so, rather than stopping, I decided to really invest in myself, educate myself, follow other successful professional punters and full-time punters and learn how to become a profitable and successful punter myself. Started that sort of process around 20 years ago. Won plenty over the years. Most people know sort of the situation with Aussie bookies at the moment and effectively banned from pretty much every bookmaker in Australia. They just won't take my bets. Either the account's just closed or so heavily restricted that the amount they'll let me on is not worth it. So I've now had to outsource a lot of my betting, working with other syndicates who place bets for me and that sort of thing. My passion now is to really help educate and provide services for others in the same position who will always want to bet but want to do it profitably and make additional money on top of their current income. Some members even do it full time. A lot of people sort of ask, why sell tips instead of backing them yourself? I've sort of explained that. You can do both. I spend an extraordinary amount of time devoted to analysis and upkeep of data and databases, and running services is a tax-effective way to subsidise the enormous time and monetary investment required to be a successful winning punter. The cost of data and databases, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. Ultimately, if professionals and experts in the fields didn't offer their services, there'd be no financial advisors, financial planners, investment advisors, stockbrokers, family offices, real estate agents, buyers agents, business coaches, all that sort of thing. Ultimately, if the markets are small in betting, there's a limited amount of money that one pro punter analyst can make betting on those markets, and so it stands to reason that with all of the enormous time and cost investment required to generate highly profitable bets, they'd want to maximise their return, and that's no different to any person in their chosen field. Conversely, if the markets are deep, then the odds don't get impacted at all by selling tips or ratings, and so there's really no reason, again, that with all the enormous time and cost investment, a person want to maximise their return on that effort. No different to any person in their chosen field. Professionals in every industry monetize their experience in multiple ways. I back my own bets and also share my knowledge with clients who want to win and bet profitably too. Where you can access our services at winningedgeinvestments.com. We've got a smartphone app that provides all of our tips and ratings. You can get them also via email. You can also log into our exclusive member portal. And the bets are sent whenever the markets produce a high-value, profitable betting opportunity. The opportunity with betting, I think there's three definitions. With betting, that's the action of gambling money on the outcome of a race, game, or event. Gambling is taking a risky action, by definition, in the hope of a desired result. And for me, investing is committing money or capital to an endeavour with the expectation of achieving a profit. And that's ultimately what I'm doing with my betting and what I expect our members to be doing as well. Treating it like a business and expecting to make a profit. Look, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and you need to take your personal circumstances into account. But this is how I look at things. You could put, let's say you've got $10,000 of capital to invest. You can put it in the bank at 5% interest if you're lucky these days and make $500 at the end of the year. With shares, if you're as good as Warren Buffett, who is the most successful stock investor in the world and in history, he makes 20% per annum investing in shares on average, which significantly is outperforming the market. But that's making you $2,000 at the end of the year. If you compare those sorts of things to inflation, I saw someone who did a study of their grocery bills from 4 years ago and bought the exact same things that they bought 4 years ago, and the price had gone up 136%. So they tell you inflation is in the single digits each year, but I think in reality, when you look at house prices, you look at grocery prices, petrol prices, and most things these days, inflation's much higher. And so for me, putting money in the bank and even investing in shares, you're not even keeping up with inflation, and you're generally going backwards. In terms of betting, if you started with a $10,000 betting bank, conservative examples here, bet just 1% of your betting bank per bet, which is $100. Place 40 bets per week, so take 2 weeks off per year. You're placing 2,000 bets a year. That's profit on turnover of just 5%, which is pretty low. Then your $200,000 over the course of the year at a profit on turnover of just 5% is $10,000, which is a profit of $10,000, and that's a return on investment of 100% on your capital. And most importantly, compared to bank interest or shares or any other investment, that's tax-free. It's obviously riskier, or can be considered riskier than stock market, but you're getting a lot more to compensate that when you consider a risk-return basis. And that's why you then want to assess the risk of what you're doing with your betting compared to your other alternatives in making money. Warren Buffett's the most successful stock investor in history. Obviously a multi-billionaire. He actually started as a horse racing handicapper, using a mixture of speed and class ratings, and from learning how to price a horse, he used those skills to learn how to value companies and stocks. Once said a public opinion poll is no substitute for thought, which shows, he made his fortune by being contrarian and taking advantage when the market has made a mistake. And the same really goes with betting. He also said his favourite holding period is forever. And with that, the longer term the perspective you can have with your betting, the greater your success will be. If you allow yourself to be affected mentally and financially by short-term results, it'll inevitably leave you with poor long-term results. He also said the true investor welcomes volatility. That's when the intelligent investor takes advantage. Charlie Munger said if you can't stomach 50% declines in your investment portfolio, you'll get the mediocre returns you deserve. And the big money is not in the buying or selling, but the waiting. Ultimately, success in investing, and the same with betting, is patience through volatility, is what produces outsized returns. And volatility ultimately is the price you pay for outsized returns. We'll just give an example here of Bitcoin. Different people have different opinions of Bitcoin, but the fact is that over the last 10 years, Bitcoin has consistently been the best performing investment asset in the world, comparing to the S&P 500, the Mag 7, the NASDAQ, the ASX, gold, silver, any investment medium, it's beaten it. You can see, I've ignored the early days of Bitcoin where it went from, $1 to $1,000 with this graph between sort of 2013 and 2018. But since 2018, it's gone from $1,000 to around 113K US, which again is just enormous returns, 113 times in sort of seven years. So an incredible investment. But what makes Bitcoin so interesting is you look at the volatility there, and you can see in this graph how much Bitcoin has gone up and down over the course of time. It dropped from 20,000 down to 3,000, an 84% drop between December 2017 and 2018. During COVID, it dropped from $69,000 down to $15,000, a 77% drop. And from March 2020, that was in the peak of COVID, it dropped from 10,000 to 3,800, which was 64%. It's had many 40% drops in its time. The reason I use Bitcoin as an example here is not only because it's proven to be the best investment really anyone could have made over this period of time, but there's no one you can yell at with Bitcoin. It's decentralized. There's no CEO. There's no centralized person involved. It's literally just a perfect demonstration of how volatility works in assets that go up. And if you'd invested at Bitcoin at certain points and then you couldn't stomach that volatility, as Charlie Munger said, then you would have lost money. And it's quite incredible to think that there's people who have lost money on an asset that's gone from $1,000 up to $113,000, and yet there's plenty. And there's a reason for that. This happens in the share market as well. There's something called the Delbars Quantitative Analysis of Investor Behavior, QAIB. And it shows that over a 30-year average, the S&P average about 10% a year, but your average investor only achieves 6% a year. Over 20 years, again, S&P was around 10% annualized return, but the average equity investor was around 6%. And the reason for that is because your average person just can't handle the volatility. They get FOMO, prices go up, they buy high, and as soon as there's some bad news, they sell and they stop. And the same happens with tipping services. You look at TrialSpy results here. We've also got our Greyhound Genius results. These are our two longest services. TrialSpy has been in operation for 12 years, Greyhound Genius for 10 years. And you can see it's not all smooth sailing. The graph goes up, goes to the right, it does what it wants to do. Just like Bitcoin, it goes up, but you can see that there's drawdown periods. You can see the drops there. The people who are unsuccessful following tipping services, including ours, are the ones who jump. Same as the people who, when there's a bit of volatility in Bitcoin, they get scared and they jump. But we have a lot of information about how to have a betting bank, how to hold a rolling betting bank, and if you stay for the long term, you'll see investment success. And that's what's critical. Even Warren Buffett, again, going back to the most successful investor in the world, his Berkshire Hathaway stock fell 60% in 1973. It fell nearly 50% during the global financial crisis. They have lost $90 billion of market value in 2020 and $100 billion of market value in 2022. In fact, he's even had investments he made in Dexter shoes where, it probably cost him about 10 million. Kraft Heinz cost him 11 or 12 billion, sorry. He invested in airlines that lost about 5 billion, IBM 2 billion. So even the best investor in the world makes mistakes. Even the best investor in the world has things that they invest in that don't make money. But if in the long term you're investing in the right things and have a long-term mindset, that's the only way that you can see success. Look, 11 recommendations that we have for betting if you want to do this successfully long term. Operate a betting bank, have a set betting bank that's set aside for betting. It's kept away from your day-to-day money. It's not there for your groceries and your bills and other things. There's a betting bank that's ideally kept separate or kept in betting accounts for this purpose and for the long term. Make sure you're maximizing your winnings, and we'll show you how to do that by making sure you're always getting the best odds. Maintain discipline and take a long-term focus and fix your mindset, which is, all around taking that long-term perspective and making sure that you're sticking with what's successful and not jumping to the next hot fad or giving up when things get a little bit tough. Obviously, only bet when you're getting value. Diversify. If you have several highly profitable services on your side, that can help you to drive faster profits and spread the risk. Always focus on profit, learn the mathematics, get yourself educated, and follow a proven strategy. And these are all things that we teach our members, and we can give you some insight into here today. We have a professional betting education pack. Anyone can download this. You don't need to be a member. Simply go onto our website, click on newsletter. You can sign up to receive our newsletter, and you'll get this straight into your inbox. We've got frequently asked questions in there. We explain what the betting opportunity is, and I'll spend a little bit of time on that. 20 tips on getting the best possible odds, and I'll run through what some of the major ones are here for you now. How to avoid getting banned by the bookies, what you can do about account restrictions, variance and the importance of sound bankroll management, perspective on betting, understand market percentages, 10 betting resolutions, explain Betfair, the best bookies and betting products to use, and the minimum bet laws that are in place at the moment to help punters betting on racing across all the states. So tips for getting the best possible odds. We've got a detailed 20-tip summary in the betting education pack, but the key ones I think are to use an odds comparison platform. This is the first one. It surprises me how many people bet without this. I couldn't imagine placing a bet without this. It's quite interesting. People know when they should go and buy petrol to get a cheaper rate, or you always will go on to Hotels Combined or Expedia or Booking.com or these aggregated things for discounted flights and hotels. Obviously, when you get a mortgage or a loan, you might compare the market. Same with insurance. Nobody does these things without at least checking. But I find it totally incredible that people bet without using an odds comparison platform. I think I couldn't fathom placing a bet without knowing where the best price is and making sure that I'm getting that, because the impact that has to your overall results is enormous. Understand market percentages and how they work. The early market fixed prices before the days before a race, even at 9 a.m, are between 125 to 135%. The closing fixed odds are usually between 110 and 120%. Your tab tote pools are usually around 118%, and the Betfair market usually closes at around 102%. And then you can add around 8% commission to that. But ultimately understanding this and how market percentages are calculated, again, is something that's in our betting education pack, but it's really important that you understand this, because that helps to guide you in knowing when to bet. Dollar cost average is a concept that punters don't really use much, but it's something that's used a lot, again, in investing in things like the share market and crypto, where rather than trying to buy a stock or a cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, whatever it is, at once, when you might not be sure how the market's going to move, a smart play can be to dollar cost average. And so whether it's going up or down, you invest a certain amount over various periods of time. And you can do the same with betting. If you're a bit unsure, why not have 50% of your bet at the early fixed price at the best price you can get, but then wait 50% and wait till later in betting. You might then take a quarter of that at some fixed prices in the last sort of 10 minutes. And you might look and wait, and in the last sort of 25%, you might decide to take Betfair SP or Best Tote SP, Top Tote Plus, one of those products, depending on how the markets are shifting. You don't have to place all your bet all at once. Obviously, having multiple corporate bookmaker accounts is a necessity. They're all offering very, very different prices on different races. The more bookies you have, the better. It's just like a broker and checking all the banks out. You're not just going to go with the bank that you might have an affiliation with currently if you can get a far, far better rate somewhere else. And it's the same with your betting. Understand your products. Understand Betfair SP compared to Best Tote SP. Top fluctuation, best of the best, which not many bookies are offering anymore, but they sometimes do on the major races and major Saturdays. Understand, Betfair is usually better on runners sort of double figure odds and above, whereas sometimes your Best Tote SP type products can be better for the runners shorter end of the market. Bet bonuses, boosts, free bets. Obviously, the more bookie accounts you have and the more opportunity you have with those. We don't include those sorts of things at all ever in Winning Edge Investments results, but they're a great opportunity, obviously, to take your betting dollar further. And be aware of bookmaker tricks. The minimum bet laws apply from 9 a.m. You'll find that just before 9 a.m. the bookies will often increase or reduce the prices of most horses, which is increasing their market percentage because they know a lot of people are sitting and waiting for that point to bet. So it can sometimes not be the ideal time to bet. Some bookies also play tricks. One in particular, sports bet, look like in the early markets they're offering better prices than everyone else, but most bookies do not have take out deductions if an emergency is scratched, but sports bet do. So if an emergency is scratched, they actually take out the deduction for that emergency as well. Knowing these sorts of tricks that the bookies are trying to play on you is really important to maximising your results long term. And again, we explain all of this to our members. In terms of using an odds comparison platform and getting the best possible odds, the newest platform out there, and the one that I think is the best now, is one called the Smart Odds Comparison Platform on the SmartB website, smartb.com.au. Gives you real-time price updates, live fluctuation graphs, and customizable layouts across horse, greyhound, and harness racing for nearly 100 top bookmakers. You've got odds comparison. What's really great, not only do they compare the corporate bookmakers, they've also got the 3 tote prices there and Betfair. So everything that you need to compare to know whether to bet early, late, and which way to bet is there. They've got a customizable layout. You can set it up how you want, only show the bookies that you want. You can set it up however it suits you. There's fluctuation graphs so you can see the market movements and identify the trends and what's happening. They've got a form guide. They've got historical data on horses. They've got a price alert system, which I find really useful. So you set a horse that you want to back, and you can set it early, and then as soon as a price pops up for that horse, you'll get a notification via email. And they've also got a black book, so you can black book your favourite horses, jockeys, trainers, tracks with personalised notifications also. The Smart Odds team have done a comparison with 2 of the other leading odds comparison services. I've, in the past, told members to subscribe to Dynamic Odds or BetWatch. They're both good products. The Smart Odds team have really spent, a couple of years trying to make sure they have all the features and more of all of the odds comparison websites available. They've got more bookies, they've got the 3 totes, customised the layouts, free trial period, and we've actually got a special offer that I'll share with you to extend that free trial period for a month. They're working on feature races as well, and futures, and also sports, which the others don't have, all for a similar price, So for me, with Smart Odds, what I'm impressed with is they're constantly updating and upgrading based on feedback. I've been giving them feedback for a couple of years. If I'm honest, I told them, I'm not going to promote you until you're better than the others. I've always told people to use Dynamic Odds, to use BetWatch, and they're both good products. But this team is really continuing to update. And one thing that's sort of happening with Dynamic Odds and BetWatch is they're not really upgrading anymore. They're not updating their platforms. They're basically stagnant. Whereas this team is constantly updating based on feedback and improving the product. They've got some sports in addition to horse racing, which the others don't have, NRL, AFL, cricket, that sort of thing. And they're also working on futures markets for both horse racing and sports. That's under development, which is really exciting. I've appreciated they've been listening to me in terms of what I've suggested. Like I said, Winning Edge is not affiliated with Smart Odds, but I just think they're now become the best tool. And they've offered a free month for anyone listening to this webinar. Simply put in the promo code WinningEdge25. The link's there. Go to smartb.com.au/smartodds sign up. And you get a free month to trial it out. And it's then just under $30 a month ongoing. And I think that's you can make that back off one bet. That's really easy. It's pretty commonplace for a runner at to be $6 at one place, $8 for another. If you're having just $100 on that, that's a $200 difference. So this sort of thing pays for itself. And I just can't imagine ever betting without using some kind of platform. It's easy. You can just pop on your phone. If you've decided there's a horse you want to bet, or you're following a tip service and it sends something out, it takes 2 seconds to look on the phone, find the race, see the prices, and know where to bet. And you get enormous value out of it. So can't recommend it enough. Some horses to follow here. These are 5 horses that I'm really keen to follow over the spring. The first one's a horse called Woden. This is a 3-year-old colt trained by Chris Waller. And he's got fantastic record, particularly in the Coolmore Stud Stakes, but also in the Golden Rose. In the latter race, I think the Coolmore is a race that Chris Waller's won incredible record six times in the last 14 years, particularly with horses owned by Coolmore, like Switzerland last year, Home Affairs, and like Woden is this year. Really keen on Woden in those Group 1 races. He trialled on the Roundwood Kensington track on 7th of August, ran second to Manal, ran plus 3.1 last 400, third quickest last 600, fourth quickest last 400, and second quickest last 200 of the open handicapper trials on that track. I think the horse is going really well, and I'd be looking at backing him in races like the Golden Rose and the Coolmore Stud Stakes and Futures. Another colt, Skyhook, we backed on Saturday to win the Rosebud. I think this horse is flying in the lead-ups in the main event. The Group 1 Golden Rose, I think he can be a big chance in everything he runs, and he ran home well for second, beating a neck in a Rosedale 29. July 900 metre trial was plus 2.3 the last 400 metres, plus 6.9 the last 400. The fifth quickest of 113 trials on the day, and plus 6.9 last 400. That means he's run 6.9 lengths above the standard par time for that track in the trial. So filly I'm really excited about, Apocalyptic. She's only had one start and ran second, so it's still a maiden. But every now and again you watch a trial and get really excited, and there was something really about her first trial, this prep, that took my eye, and the data and section was supported it. She was plus 5.2 the last 400 metres, was clear quickest of 136 triallers on the day, under a hold. She flew home for second on debut at Roundwick, beating multiple Group Class horses. She looks a really high quality Group 1 filly, and even though she's only had one start, still a maiden, I think she's Group 1 class. Whether she's targeted at a mile, like the Flight Stakes, the 1,000 Guineas Group 1 races, or whether she goes to a Golden Rose, even an Everest or a Coolmore, I think she can measure up to anything. I think she's really worth watching this spring. Autumn Glow is a filly I identified from before her first start. I said before her first start, this is a Group 1 filly. She's unbeaten. She's a real superstar. And, she's going to be winning Group 1s this prep and could well be close to the best horse in the country, in my opinion. And the last one is a horse called Vauban. You might recall this horse. He's run the Melbourne Cup the last 2 years. He was favourite 2 years ago. And I think was second favourite last year. He's run down the track in both Melbourne Cups, but he had to run in both of them straight off the plane. He sort of melted in the parade ring. He's now with Gay Waterhouse. This horse ran second to Kyprios, who's the best stayer in the world. Last year, the third horse in that race, Giavoletto, then came out and won the Group 1 2400 at Hong Kong on their Champions Day easily. The form around Vauban is just absolute top class. He won first up in Australia in the Sky High last prep, and should have won the BMW second up as well, over 2,400 at Group 1 levels. Very unlucky. I think if Tim Clark had stayed along the fence, he would have won the race against Dubai Honour. He's obviously a top class horse who's won quite a few Group 1s in Australia. Second in that race was Duke de Sessa, who won the Caulfield Cup last year, and fourth in that race was Arapaho, who won the Sydney Cup by about 5 lengths. So form's really good. Winning Edge Investments has actually taken ownership in Vauban, following that horse through, and there's, at the end of this webinar, really great opportunity to get involved with that. Just thought I'd talk a little bit about the Trial Spy service. Again, this is produced from the thorough assessment of all barrier trials and jump outs across the country. Use speed ratings of trials against par times to enable accurate comparisons to be made of trialers on a given day at a given track over varying distances. The bookies really undervalue this. Win bets going at nearly 10% POT, and that's certainly our main focus with the service. This is just the past 7 days. This webinar has been planned for quite a long time, so not sort of picking and choosing here, but this is literally just the last 7 days before we recorded this webinar. Friars Legacy led all the way, won at $4, and Skyhook won for us at Betfair SP, paid around $5. Burronair Boy then won at Cairns at $26. Naval Trader, this is an orange. The horse was held up, set a long way back, absolutely flew home in the straight, ran second beat in the nose, still a profitable bet as we backed it each way, but should have won at $18. It was just really stiff. Via Novello then won at Devonport as favourite. Then had Ralphie, basically carbon copy of Naval Trader, got back, held up in the straight, horse on the outside, just hemmed it in, flew home, ran second beat in the nose at around sort of $6. It should have won as well. Arguably should have had 6 sort of winning bets out of 7 there. The only one that didn't win was the Blade, but if you actually watched a replay of that as well, it was favourite. Jockey just got lost and held up the whole way as well. All of those horses, if you actually watched the replays, could have won. Price is up to $26. Luckily, the $26 one did win quite easily, Burronair Boy. Then we had Snug, another one who sort of got back, ran home, flew home, and ran second, beaten in a photo. Again, a profitable bet because we betted each way. Then Blue Chip Gill at $4.81. Every single horse running well. Spice Prawn was the first disappointing one, just didn't handle the heavy track. But then Kimberly Secret, so we backed at $12 in early markets, came out and won. And then Old Chap ran a really close third at $8.50. Last 7 days, we've had 55 units profit at 300% POT. 122 units over the last 12 months at 20% profit on turnover, which is amazing numbers, and overall 933 units profit. We give you everything you need to know with the service, comments on the trial and race suitability, the selection of the race time, staking suggestion, fixed odds. We just pick a few bookies, look at the second best price available, never take the top price, and we only send bets out when all of the bookies have prices available, all of the major ones. And we advise things like Betfair SP, Best Toad SP, Top Fluctuation that everyone can get on for as much as they like, and we record exactly as we state. These are some of the big results. We've had 100 to 1 winners, huge place getters, back Sunlight at $34 in futures, and Zoostar at $15 in futures. Even had a $10,000 trifecta. The edge is because trials they're like a mini race, but they're not an official race. Not all horses are trying. So the large databases and betting models, they just cannot or do not reflect the results of this accurately. So there really is a big edge when you can analyse these accurate. And there's quite often these star trialers that are largely overbet and under the odds as well that you can take advantage of. Assessment of trials are similar to that to a race. I do the form beforehand, analyse the times, the margins and class. If it performs above the expectations of a horse in its current class and we follow it that preparation, I've done so with real success. It's just some examples of the edge. These horses were found from trials. You couldn't find them from doing the form. Cloud Cover at 100 to 1. It's actually $450 on Betfair. I got it 100 to 1. It was beaten 34 lengths and 8.4 lengths at its past 2 starts. Heroes Quest at 100 to 1, beaten 10th, 9th, 7th, average beaten margin 9 lengths. Martha Mary, average beat margin 11 lengths at its last 4 starts. We're identifying these horses because their trial form shows that they're substantially better than their race form, and they invariably come out and win. We even had a horse, Manalong Jenny, it was $320 Betfair SP. It run sixth last, seventh, average beat margin 10.8 lengths. And it was nearly one for the ages. These are some of the horses that I've identified through the service and that we've backed, sometimes before their first start, usually when they're a maiden. Horses like Winx, needs no introduction, Red Zell, Chautauqua, Zoostar, Sunlight, Classic Legend, who won an Everest. Plenty of champion horses, Group 1 winners, really high quality horses that we've identified really early on in their career from the trials as horses with huge potential and that we've backed very successfully. If you want to know how to find big value trialers yourself, compare the speed to other trials on the day. I use databases and sectional times that aren't available in the public. Unfortunately, the times that you do get from the racing bodies are often just completely wrong. So you do want to time the trials yourself if you want to really, really find the edge. Horses that are trialling well, trialling up in class, you quite often find these maidens, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds trialling against open handicap horses, and they give you a really good comparison of how good they can be. Horses that have improved from a prior prep, some horses just all of a sudden the penny drops, or they change something with the training and with the trials. You can tell that they're a different horse, and that's where you get the big value early on. Ridden out, some people don't like horses that are ridden out, but if the time is really strong or it shows a turn of foot, that can still be a positive, and the market can underrate that. Know your trainers. Some trainers have horses fully wound up for trials, like a Gay Waterhouse, while others don't, like Chris Waller, and they use the trials for fitness. Some trainers also put on heavy jockeys or heavy shoes to weigh the horses down in trial, and this is the sort of stuff that you need to know, and if you do, you can take big advantage of. This was a member survey we did a few years ago, just about service and the quality. I'll skip over this. How would you describe the service in just a few words? This is, again, coming from members, profitable service, easy to follow, fair odds recording. Again, the number one value that members are finding with the service, long-term profitable, finding horses at great value and excellent returns. And this is what people have been able to do with their betting, increase their bank size, putting down deposits on houses, overseas holidays, buying horses, cars, paying off their mortgage is a common one. And it's really great when you hear this sort of stuff and the success that people are having with the service, including even concentrating on full-time punting. These are just some testimonials. The one thing I note about the testimonials that we have, you find a lot of these new services that pop up every day, and their testimonials are from someone who just had one big winner or a good week. We've got testimonials here from people who've been with us since the start. People who've stuck with us for 12 years, and people don't do that unless your service is winning and you're delivering a quality service. Best horse racing tipping service available in Australia, both the profits and the education. All of these people have been members for multiple years. Usually their longest subscription service of a service, and they enjoy it. Just a quick summary of a couple of the other services that we've got on Winning Edge Investments. Traders Tips is a really great service. Comes from 2 corporate bookmaker insiders. They've got deep connections all around Australia, and they're able to get access to where the smart money from the best punters is being placed and when. So essentially with this service you get to place the same bets that the sharpest punters in Australia are placing in real time. As soon as they come through, they're being sent straight to your app and inbox. It's mostly horse racing, but they do greyhound racing, a little bit of harness racing and sports. It's whatever the big money's going on and the smart money's going on. There's some great winners recently at Sandown just last month. They had Super Stock, $56. A lot of big price winners. People complain can't get the price. This was at Betfair SP. Everybody got the price. We recorded it at Betfair SP, less commission. It was a really great winner. She's lit it at $41. Night of Buzz at $26. A couple of others there around 20 to 1 on Betfair SP. They only started 2 years ago with us running a public service and made 283 units profit, $28,000 profit per $100 unit since they started. In the last 9 months, we did find that a lot of people are really struggling with runners at shorter end of the market. All the market percentage in the last sort of 5 years has basically gone on runners at the short end of the market, the sort of $3, $4 favourites. Probably 5 percentage points of both the SP and the top flut have increased are going in there, and I'm finding most professional punters are just struggling at that short end of the market. So we work with them, the traders, and decided not to send anything out, under sort of $6-7 Betfair SP. And they now got that limit. Since doing that over the last 9 months, since New Year's Eve when that was first implemented, plus 163 units, profit at 25% PAT, which is incredible numbers. Over $16,000 profit per $100 unit just the last 9 months with that service. I've also got a service. It's a 3-in-1 service that we merged for people who like betting on the big races in spring. It's a futures, features, and quaddies. My futures bets are at 25% profit on turnover since inception. Our spring Carnival last year was 48% profit on turnover. Some big winners, Quick Thinker at $51, started at $8.01. State of Rest at $26, started at $6, won the Cox Plate. Plenty of $15, $13, $12 winners. Also provide my quaddie tips for the major races with the big jackpots, and pretty much all of the major group racing: Randwick, Rosehill, Flemington, Caulfield, Moonee Valley. Providing quaddies, we've got a $107,000 quaddie at Rosehill. We've had plenty of $20,000 quaddies there. And the service also covers feature races, so all Group 1 races are provided really detailed historical preview. Give you the last 12 years of data, the lead-up races, the ratings, everything that's required. There's some incredible insights you can get about horses' prep, where in the prep they need to be, what lead-up races they need to have been in, what sort of form, what sort of ratings. And members use this information themselves as well to help guide their bets in all the major races. Just a quick summary of why you might want to choose Winning Edge Investments. Look, we've got full transparency of results. I don't know any other service that is posting the results every single day, both on our website, they're updated every single day, and on social media. Any day you can come and check and you get the up-to-date results in there. Win or lose, we're posting them on the website. Win or lose, we're posting them on social media to provide a constant update. There's no other service in the world that appears to do that. Achievability of results is a big one. Again, we're recording at things like Betfair SP, best tote, plus top fluctuation, and fixed odds only when there's plenty of bookies available. When we're not sending bets out when there's one or two bookies and nobody can get the price. It's that price is available with many bookies. Longevity is a big one. We've been around for 12 years. Every year there's more and more tipping services pop up and they disappear, they phoenix into something else, they run off with your money and they keep doing the same things. Big advertising, but no long-term longevity. We've been here for 12 years because we do the right thing. We get good word of mouth, and members subscribe to one of our services, make profits and expand their portfolios into more services to improve things. We've got genuine long-term profitability. We've got a profit guarantee. If you don't make a profit in a quarter or a year and you haven't made a profit with us over the course of your membership, then your next payment is free. We've got skin in the game with you. All of our analysts know that if they're not delivering profits for a member, then that member's not going to be paying until they are. Again, there's no other tipping service doing that. We're providing professional betting education, 120-page professional betting education pack. And really importantly, we've got no affiliation with corporate bookmakers. And that's something that's really important to avoid. If a tipping service is promoting a corporate bookmaker, the way they do that is through your losses. The corporate bookmaker is paying that tipping company a percentage of your losses. If you lose $10,000 a year, that tipping company might be getting $2,000-3,000, something like that out of you. That's why you want to avoid free tips websites, because they're making money from your losses. They actually want you to lose. Any tipping company that's sponsored by a corporate bookmaker, promoting a corporate bookmaker, that's what it is. They're making money when you lose. Their interests aren't aligned with yours, and it just doesn't make sense to subscribe to any tipping service that's doing that. If their results aren't updated daily and transparently on their website, then there's a reason for that. They're hiding something. The odds recording, only includes limited bookies. They're getting prices that no one can get. They're including boosts and bonuses that not everybody can get. Some record at Betfair SB, but they don't deduct the commission. That's 8% right there. Or they use the best available. I'm sure you've seen some of the major tipping services of the past. They'll either record the top fixed price when the bet's sent, or the top fluctuation throughout betting, or the Betfair SP, or the best tote. It's incredible. Or they don't even state a methodology at all. with how they're recording their bets, and so they just pick and choose. Obviously, that massively inflates their results, and it's just not real. A lot of them you'll find they're just focusing on short-term results and new services with limited results, so there's just no way for you to really know. Not enough bets. TrialSpy's had 15,000 bets on record. There's no other service that comes close to that in terms of proof of results, and you just can't judge a service on small numbers of results. They don't have a profit guarantee. That tells you that they don't believe in what they're giving you long-term. And a lot of them, they don't have a social media profile. They don't have a website. They have no profile. You've seen me, heard me on radio, on Punters, on Betting a Business podcast. That's different to most, and there's a reason for that. We just end this with some special offers. We've got 7 special offers, so we've really wanted to thank those that wanted to invest in their education and listen to this podcast. So the first special offer, a free trial of the Smart Odds comparison platform for a month. Simply go to smartb.com.au/smartodds-sign up, put in the Winning Edge 25 promo code, and you get a free month. And I'll explain to you why it's a no-brainer to give that a try and to be using that with your betting. It pays for itself with one bet. One bet you can pay for a year. Special offer 2, you join TrialSpy or Traders Tips. Coming under this video, something positive you learn that you're going to apply to your betting going forward, and you're going to the draw to win all the services you subscribe to with us from the date of this webinar until the end of next month at no cost. We'll give you a full refund. That's for one person, but for anyone who puts a positive comment in there about something you learned from this video, that's what we do it for. We'll be putting a special bonus into your account, and we think you'll be really excited with that. Special offer 3, look, simply go to winningedgeinvestments.com/main or click on the newsletter button. We've got a 120-page professional betting education pack. You can get that for nothing. Simply put your email address in there, and that'll get sent straight to you. And you also get some free weekly tips each Saturday from our services. And special offer 4, all financial members of Winning Edge Investments, who at least one quarterly and or yearly service, is going to have the opportunity to win tickets and a share of prize money that Vauban earns throughout the Spray and Carnival. So you'll be able to act as an owner for a day, get a share of prize money that he earns, and go and watch Vauban racing, including for the $10 million Melbourne Cup. Just working through the legals, there's certain things around, games of chance and games of skill and competition law that I'm just getting affiliated with, but we're going to have some really cool things for Winning Edge Investment members, so get on board if you want to take advantage of that, and stay tuned. There's going to be some really exciting details on that. But we do have one offer that's already going, I'm about to explain to you, special offer 7. Special offer 5, if you subscribe to TrialSpy quarterly, it will give you a free quarter of my features and Quaddies service, which is worth $787. You can see the results there of TrialSpy. We've gone through that. Extremely successful service, long-term, and we're in absolutely hot form. Sometimes in life you feel like you're seeing things like beach balls, and that's how it feels at the moment with the trialers. And, spring's always been the most profitable time. Pretty much any time between August and January has always been the most profitable time with the service, and so this really is the right time to join, and excited about what's coming up. For some of you might already have TrialSpy, obviously we've got plenty of members. Also throwing it out for the Traders Tip service that I explained to you as well. Again, another service that's just gone incredibly well, both long term and recently, really, really flying. And again, free quarter of Dean's features, futures and Quaddies if you subscribe to that. Promo code quarterly special. So just go to the website, subscribe to either TrialSpy or Traders Tips, and you get quarterly special. Special offer 6 is just for the yearly as well. So subscribe to either TrialSpy or Traders Tips for a year, and you get a free year of my features, futures and Quaddies service, getting you through the spring carnival, the summer carnivals, and through the autumn carnival as well for an entire year. Same thing, just subscribe to either of those services and use a promo code yearly special to take advantage of that. And the big one here, in conjunction with SEN Radio, go to sen.com.au/win. All you got to do is put in your email address and your phone number and your details. You can win the ultimate race day out worth up to $30,000. Your choice of 2 tickets to either the Everest or the Caulfield Cup. The packages are pretty amazing. It's food, pretty much all you can eat and drink, including spirits and cocktails, which are pretty rare these days, and lots of other cool things there. 2 tickets, so one for you and a friend or family member. Total value is $5,000 for those tickets to either Everest or Caulfield Cup. whichever you want to attend. And plus, you can be owner of Vauban for a day. So 1% of the net prize money that Vauban earns in the Caulfield Cup this year, less any trainer and jockey entitlements. So, going up to $25,000, equivalent to what a 1% owner of Vauban receives. And all you need to do is go into sen.com.au/win, put in your details and get that. So make sure you pause these. A lot of these are free, take you a couple of minutes and you get a heap of benefits. Here you can take advantage of one of our services and get on board so that you're eligible for some of these other offers. And then obviously this big one as well, this ultimate race day out is a great prize. What we're really excited about. There'll be more coming with Vauban as well for the Melbourne Cup and his lead-up races. That's it from winningedgeinvestments.com. Thanks again to the Smart Odds team who've allowed me to use their podcast area to record this. If you have any questions at all, winningedgeinvestments.com. We've got FAQs, every service really I'll explain. There's a detailed results page. And if you do have any questions, just email the team, membersuccess@winningedgeinvestments.com. That's the best place to get it. Team design and train for your success and to help you with your profitable betting. The social media team are not really across all the details or information. So if you've got a question, really encourage you to go to membersuccess@winningedgeinvestments.com and the team can help you answer all your questions and get what you need. So thanks all for listening. I hope you found this educational, informative. I'm really looking forward to getting into a really big spring carnival with you. You subscribe to my service. You'll have direct access to me via email. Can fire any questions to me directly as well. So get on board with Trial Spy, Traders Tips, any of our other services. We've got a fantastic array and they're going to have a really big spring carnival, all of them. So looking forward to it. And thanks for listening.